Hello learners, good morning. Today we'll study about a structured query language SQL. Yes, this is something which is very widely used in the industry. ये इंडस्ट्री में बहुत वाइडली यूज होता है, चाहे आप डेटा एनालिसिस ले लें, डेटा इंजीनियरिंग ले लें। एसक्यूएल एक बहुत ही सिंपल लैंग्वेज है जो कि आप सीख सकते हैं। अगर आपको पाइथन, आर, जावा ये सब लैंग्वेजेस टफ लगती है तो यू कैन स्टार्ट विद एसक्यूएल. Yes, it is also called as simple query languages somewhere. Its actual name is structured query language, but because it is very simple to learn and easy to extract data, this is called as structured query language. So what we'll discuss in SQL, we'll discuss the introduction, the data types of SQL, database, table creation, inserting the data, retrieving the data, filtering data, sorting, updating, aggregating, joining, and subqueries. All this we'll discuss in two classes. We'll discuss the theory in these two classes, and then next we'll also discuss the practical problems in the third class. So let's begin. What is SQL? SQL stands for Structured Query Language and is a computer language that we use to interact with a relational database. तो SQL एक structured query language है जो कि एक relational database से interact करने के लिए यूज होती है. अभी relational database क्या होता है? Relational database होता है जब हमारे पास बहुत सारे tables हो जो कि एक स्टोरेज में स्टोर्ड हो, जैसे कि कस्टमर का सैलरी क्या है, कस्टमर का एड्रेस क्या है, कस्टमर का फोन नंबर क्या है, तो ये डेटा तीन अलग अलग टेबल्स में स्टोर होगा और ये सब रिलेटेड होगा कस्टमर आईडी के बेसिस पे, तो वो बन जाएगा रिलेशनल डेटाबेस. तो हम कोई भी एक लैंग्वेज लिखते हैं जिससे हम उस डेटा को एक्सट्रैक्ट कर सके, वो होता है स्ट्रक्चर्ड क्वेरी लैंग्वेज, और ये डेटा जहाँ पे स्टोर्ड होता है उसको बोलते हैं रिलेशनल डेटाबेस. We'll study about relational database in more detail. So basically, relational database is a place in which all the tables are stored, and structured query language is used to extract the data from that relational database. It is used for organizing, managing, and retrieving the data. So you can organize data at one place, you can manage all the data, and you can also retrieve this data. That is the main use of SQL from this database. So आप डेटा निकाल सकते हैं. रिट्राइविंग द डेटा मीन्स आप डेटा पुल कर सकते हैं वहां से आफ्टर मेकिंग अ रिक्वेस्ट. So DBMS is a database management system. It is a process that SQL query retrieves the requested data. So whenever you request for a data, we'll see in queries also how to request for the data comes out. So it's like you give a request and then your service is answered, or whatever you are requesting that you get in the form of data. So that is what is done by a SQL query. So query is something which you write, okay, to get the output of a data. So rather, SQL statement describes how a collection of data should be organized or what data should be extracted or added to the database. So basically, we need to know that what data has to be collected, organized, and extracted to the database. Now, what is a data type? So, data type is a very important thing. You remember we discussed this in Python as well, which is very similar here. We need to know that what kind of data we have. If it is a phone number, then it is an integer data. If it is a salary, it is an integer data. As name suggests, integer means number. So, it is called as int here when we have the whole number to the data. So, that is called as int, right? So that is called as int. And then we have product IDs, quantities, these kind of variables we have. So this is used to store the data, and data is always stored of the same value. So it cannot be that a product ID has to be number. So if it is alphanumeric, if it has number and alphabets both, then it would be varchar. Varchar can store both number and alphabets as well. So you need to define that. Okay, my this column will have numbers, this column will have characters. That is how you define the database, and it basically creates a system of that table, that okay, these are the variables which should be number, these are the variables which should be character. So it is very important to decide that whenever you are creating the table for the data at that time, you can decide these particular things, right? Now suppose what is varchar is a variable character length. As I said, abcd or 1 2 3 4 or combination of these two can be stored in varchar of a maximum length n. So suppose if you don't know what would be the length of the value which you are entering there, suppose address, right? Address can be of 100 characters as well. Like if it is a very long address, it can be 100 characters. So you give varchar 100, that means it can store the character length till 100 in that particular column. Then we have char. What is char? If you know the fixed length, okay, if it would be say yes or no, okay, so then you can give a char as 3. So maximum can be yes and minimum can be no and no. So if you know the length of the column, then you can give as char, that this would be the particular length, and rest it also stores the character values. Then decimal stores a decimal value. before the decimal and after the decimal, how many places you want to store. So suppose if you have an amount and you want to show till two decimal places, then you can show like suppose 100 rupees and 50 paisa, so 100.50, that you can store in a decimal variable. Then you have date also. So date also you can give the format also, in which format you want, YYY or MMDD, sometimes it is triple MDD, YY also. So there are many formats which you can see in SQL in which you can store your data. Then the Boolean data can be true or false, whatever values you are storing in the data, that can be the Boolean. So these are the basic data types which are used in SQL to ensure the data accuracy, that you get the same kind of data. If suppose there is a junk data coming, right? If suppose in date you are getting 1 2 3, so then that will not take and not store. So it requires to maintain the data integrity as well in the data, and it helps in data accuracy also. So if you see data integrity and storing efficiency, if you store a same kind of values, then it will be stored properly and it will be very efficient as well. So SQL also allows things like not null, unique, primary key. So not null means if you have entered not null in a column, if any null values come, it will fail while you are inserting that data. So these are the things which you can put. If you want to put a unique values in a column, if suppose Aman has come once, Aman name does not want to come again, you can put a unique value. Then primary key is also something which is a unique value and which relates the table as well. So as I was telling, suppose a customer ID. If a customer ID is unique in one table, that can be used as a to join with other tables. So for that customer ID, we can have address in the address table. So that also will have customer ID. So now the customer table and address table can be joined on the basis of this primary key, which is customer ID. So that is the primary key. So these are the basic concepts of data types, and the reason is it is very important to know how to store the data in these values. Okay, so next we'll learn what is database and table creation. So to start using SQL, you'll need a database. You can create a database using a create database statement. Once you have a database, you can create tables to structure your data, table define. So basically, first thing is database. So database is a place in which you can create things. So just consider this as a house. Okay, so you create a house first, right? And then maybe if you are going to create a house, you take a place to build that house, right? Then you decide, okay, I'll have my drawing room, I'll have my first bedroom, bathroom, kitchen at these places. So those things you can consider as the tables, which are the part of a house. So first you create a database, you allocate a space to your house, right? That is a database. Then you can create tables inside that. So you can create the database with this simple statement, create database. So generally this job is mostly for the database administrator who creates the database, and then the database developer create tables and then they query on the tables, they retrieve the data, those things. But in certain scenarios there are accesses given to create database, and if you are practicing these things, you can practice in PostgreSQL. You can even create your own database, and then inside that database you can create the table. So just a simple statement, create database, as simple as it can be, right? Just two English words, create and database. तो हम दो ही वर्ड्स का यूज कर रहे हैं, एक क्रिएट और एक डेटाबेस, और हम फिर उसके आगे डेटाबेस का नाम दे रहे हैं जिससे वो डेटाबेस क्रिएट हो जा रहा है, राइट? So you can create the structure of the data. Tables define the column and their data types. So their data types are also defined. So as I said, when you give a data type, so ID is serial, the name is varchar, character ID is int, decimal. So all these are the different columns which different data types. So first you can create your database and then you can create your table as well. So now defining the primary key uniquely identifies the records in a table and enforces the data uniqueness. So if you give a primary key to one column, say ID, then it would be like unique. You can use a foreign key to establish relationship with a database. As I was telling, if you are using a customer ID, that can be a foreign key. तो foreign key क्या होता है? एक टेबल से हमको दूसरी टेबल को रिलेट करना है, तो कस्टमर टेबल में कस्टमर आईडी वुड बी द प्राइमरी की, वो प्राइमरी की होगा. बट देन वो एक दूसरे टेबल में एड्रेस टेबल में दैट वुड बी अ फॉरेन की, बिकॉज दैट इज यूज टू ज्वाइन एड्रेस एंड द कस्टमर आईडी. सो वहां पे दैट बिकम्स अ foreign key. So it is very important to define the database and table for again data integrity, accuracy, and retrieval of the data. So once you have created the database and the table, the next step is to insert the data. So now I know I have name, price, category ID. So if I am working for an electronic company and I have these electronic items, say laptop, camera, or phone, or whatever, I can give these values to it. So it is very simple. Insert into statement is used to add a new record. If you have to insert something, you just put a insert into, right? That is a syntax for inserting the data. You specify the target table name and provide the values to be inserted. You can insert multiple values at one time. Data integrity. Insert address to the defined data type is crucial in maintaining integrity. So as I said, remember if you have name, it should be varchar, right? Price should be decimal. It cannot be ABCD. Price should not be ABCD. So this is, you need to ensure, you need to check the data type of the table. If you are the one who has not created the table and you are inserting the data, you need to check the integrity. You need to know. आपको पता होना चाहिए कि वहाँ पे कैरेक्टर है कि नंबर है कि डेसिमल है. वो सब बेसिस पे आप चेक कर सकते हैं और इसमें डेटा इंसर्ट कर सकते हैं. Properly inserting and managing the data is a fundamental of maintaining accurate information of the data. So here if you see, this is the simple syntax. Insert into table name, what are the columns that are given in the bracket, then values, then the first row, Samsung Galaxy, this price, and then category ID is 2. So there are like multiple category ID can be same also if it is say 4. So laptop and MacBook are in the same category. So category ID is the same, but price is different, name is different. So this is the second row. This is the third row. You can enter as many rows with the help of these comma. So as simple this syntax look like, it is this simple as well. And you can just simply insert the data once you have created a blank table before this step when we saw the create table step. So here it is again to show you once again how it is done. Create table, say order table is created. Okay. So now category table first we can say which has only one values. So ID is the column and then it is a primary key. So it should not be repeated. And the name is this. So now if you insert the values into the name column only, you can insert these all names. Now if you are entering into a order ID table, what is the ID, product ID, quantity? These are the three columns in which you can enter values. Sorry, four columns: ID, product ID, quantity, and date. So these are the four values in different rows which you have inserted. So first, execute this create table statement and put a semicolon. If you are ending any statement, then you need to put a semicolon. उसके end में semicolon होना चाहिए. और फिर हम उसमें insert into करके ये सारी values जो है वो insert कर सकते हैं. नेक्स्ट हम जानेंगे कि रिट्राइविंग द डेटा क्या होता है. तो सेलेक्ट स्टेटमेंट यूज होता है डेटा रिट्राइव करने के लिए. ठीक है, हमको कोई चीज सेलेक्ट करना है, कौन कौन से कॉलम सेलेक्ट करने हैं. इफ यू हैव टू एज इट इज इन इंग्लिश वर्ड, राइट, यू सेलेक्ट, सपोज इफ यू गो टू अ शॉप टू बाय अ शर्ट, you select one out of the 10 shirts which the shopkeeper shows you. So it is similar layer, like you select one or multiple columns from a particular table. So it is very simple. Select the columns which you want to select, name comma price, from table. If you want to select all the columns, you have to put this star. This is something which is very common and the first basic query which you need to know if you want to extract all data from a table. So select statement is used to retrieve the data. As we said, ये data retrieval में use होता है. फिर इसमें और कुछ चीजें होती है जैसे कि ऑर्डर बाय क्या करता है कि उसको एक ऑर्डर में अरेंज कर देता है. सपोज हम ऑर्डर बाय अगर नेम कर दे तो एप्पल ए से आता है तो सबसे पहले आएगा. हम किसी को एक पर्टिकुलर ग्रुप बाय करना चाहते हैं, एक पर्टिकुलर ग्रुप एक में रहेगा, तो हम उसको ग्रुप बाय कर सकते हैं. हम जॉइंस के बारे में देखेंगे अपकमिंग स्लाइड्स में. यूनियन ऑल्सो, इफ यू वांट टू कंबाइन टू डेटा तो यू कैन डू यूनियन एज वेल. But to start with the very basic, if you have to select and column names from a table, you can select from here, and then select star from a order table will give you all the data. So this was the basic and the beginning of SQL. Hope you all enjoyed this first session of SQL. Just revise these things once, and if you want this PPT, just comment your email ID in the below comment section. We'll be sharing that with you, and wait for the next week video in which we'll cover more details of SQL theory, and then in the next class some SQL practical as well. Thank you. Have a good day, everyone.